Beautiful Friday morning. Good morning and welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show. Sabontin Kesekvuganati Lomhlai Kuseni. It is the 2nd of February 2024. Sasivele siqhubeka nje inyanga yendlovana kumnyaka lo setulu wa 2024. My name is Longelele Makagula. I'm with my co-host Umguni Shumnagbili. How are you this morning?
Ngiyaphila kunjani Mfombe?
I'm well. Ngone siqala weekend yathi kuthi aba Friday vele mood iyashintsha because
Well, certainly I believe ukuthi singamaswati sijabula kakhulu ukuthi kusasa inkonzo eqala umnyaka.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I believe ukuthi we are all excited just for that. Personally, I'll be there in person. I cannot miss this one. Qala umnyaka kumcwa kakhulu. Sitolo besikhuluma ngabo ukuthi bo resolution run labetayo. And I think for us as a maswati nanathi kufuna siyobeka ama resolutions ethu embikwalomdzala wethu insuku ke kusasa sihlangane. So I'm really excited for that one. I hope you are coming as well.
Yeah, but sifiso indlela vele ibheka khona so vele sibe siyakhona vele siyokhonda umdali esikusacala umnyaka nje bushide ukuthi kumele sibeke etonge etingade uNkulunkulu sithandaze definitely.
Indeed, yeah. Well, certainly here's another exciting thing lesigatsile kule mphela sonto Africa Cup of Nations solo nje iyaqhubeka keeping fans excited with a beautiful plot so far. The roller coaster of emotions continues and we want to look back at some of the last games of the round of 16 starting with Cape Verde versus Mauritania, where Cape Verde emerged victorious, as well as other games like Senegal versus Ivory Coast, which ended in penalties. Mali and Burkina Faso faced off on Tuesday, with Mali coming out with the W. And lastly, Bafana's win versus Morocco. What a thriller of a game that was. The quarterfinals start today with clashes between Angola versus Nigeria at 7, and then lastly Guinea versus Congo at 10. Games and quarterfinals. We want to discuss all those games with Fabrice Msonera, but we also do want to, just briefly track what has been happening in the English Premier League. Games Manchester United managed to be victorious against Wolves in a 4-3 victory. Bournemouth and West Ham 1-1 apiece, which was an interesting game as well. The results not so interesting, but the game itself was very interesting. We want to discuss those games as well as the weekend fixtures, our English Premier League, and maybe the La Liga if time is going to permit, with Fabrice Msonera at 7:30. Don't go anywhere.
Let's get 6:30 lomuhla. It's a Friday. Sikhuluma tona tindzaba tekubhadalwa kwemthelo. Vusi Dlamini will be joining us. He's the communications director ka-ERS. Sikhuluma kabanti pay as you earn. Sibuka nje ukuthi what is pay as you earn? Who is obligated to register? How do you register? Nokuthi ingabe uregister nini ukubhadalela yona pay as you earn. Sabe sinayo 6, and then later siphinde sikhulumisana na PRO wenkampani Iswaziboy Entertainment. I-create kutabe kunema Eswatini Creators Award this weekend. They are coming for the 4th edition. Dokumela ukuthi bekabitwa ngema social media awards, but ke kwabese bamemetela ukuthi sabashintshile. They are now called the Eswatini Creators Awards. Sifuna ukukhulumisana nabakuva ukuthi ingabe inkampani noma ke ntshisekelo kubo ema artists this weekend ingabe vele ithini nemalungiselelo nje awo lomsebenzi ukuthi ingabe uhamba kanjani, and also talk about the categories. Sokumela ukuthi mabamemetela le change bavetele ukuthi there are added categories kulama awards lawa stabe sinayo nokwanda sibanze at 22:07. Kumanje let's take a look at newspaper headlines. Asibona nje lethamba imbili ku-Eswatini Observer. The Prime Minister is back from his trip His Majesty the King Uganda kanye nase-Italy. We won't stop probe ngekusho kwa judge. He says until told otherwise by the relevant authority. Man jumps off bridge into river and dies. Head teachers warn STIs high among pupils. Quite shocking. Arrest all sugar daddies ngekusho kwa Deputy Prime Minister.
Good Temidlala Eswatini Observer this Friday morning. The leading story there in Singizini snatch match sought after defender in Tabangulu Celtics Ngosingphile Shongwe. This ambitious side, which is in Singizini Hotspurs, have again muscled their way in their transfer market by elbowing the country's big guns out of the race for in-demand Tabangolo Celtics defender. Another leading story, uproar over new Bafana Bemkhuleko kit. As we can see on that photo, the images of the highly anticipated new kit for Mahab Giants Imanzini Wanderers, which are anything to go by. The team's fans have received such pictures with outrage after they started circulating on social media on Wednesday.
All right, moving on to the Eswatini Daily News. Lethamba Imbili, Eswatini strengthens ties with Taiwan. Kulenye Lehamba Imbili ministers are impressed by the Nhlangano Sephambanweni water project, and Eswatini Legal Aid has amplified outreach programs.
The leading story, Kutemidlalo Eswatini Daily News. Papi back at Wesleyans. Hub Giants Manzini Wanderers set to reunite with former midfielder Xolani Papi's Konze and have signed Leopard strikers Dumo Dlamini as they stave off relegation worries. Another story, Denver Sundowns Mtunzi for Bull. And the last story, why White furious with Zinchenko.
All right, it's 6 minutes after 6. Doubts not careful. Spain at Inzabata Eswatini.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita lokusembili.
Siphinze sinabukela ehlelweni bonkhosi sithabele nathi tindzaba tesiswati. Umhlonishwani Vunankhulu Russell Dlamini sewubuyile eSwatini kulandzela lihambo lwakhe lobeluye even le-Uganda nase-Italy lapho bekamelele khona ingwenyama emihlanganweni. Vunankhulu uthanda kungena even egedeni engwenya esukwini layidolo.
Linam conference or summit lebesiye kuyo emave nje lati tshela ukuthi wona akangenelani noma athi akadingeni tindzaba talamanye emave kugcizelele lokuthi ayaqhubeka kuletho timiso tawo but ancoma kakhulu ukuthi akabambane sale asebenzisana wona kuze ukuthi athuthuke. Lokhu bengilokukhulu ke lapho ngilokuthi lo abe chairman wayo bekuyiCuba sekushintshile ke sekube sekuthatha yena president wase-Uganda Yoweri Museveni. Ekukhulumeni kwakhe ke yena Yoweri Museveni ugcizelele nje ukuthi emave akasebenzisane kanye ase South nemave langadingene tindzaba talamnyama kuze ukuthi athuthuke ngekuthekiselana but aphindze futhi abeke embili ukuthula internal peace khona la khatse emaveni wagcizelela nje kakhulu ukuthi kumqoka kakhulu ukuthi kube nekuthula nestability emaveni. Kube seke sekuba ne-declaration leyendiwe khona leya Kampala nayo leyo declaration iqinisa kakhulu lokusebenzisana kwalamazwe langentasi. Mhlawumbe wesibili ke kube khona le Kampala nakuphela lenam lethathe emalanga lamabili kwasike kucala lenye lokuthiwa iGroup 77 plus China. Le Group 77 plus China kuyona inhlangano nje yemave lasathuthuka kepha ke abane China ngetulo lokuthi kushiwo ukuthi plus China lokuthi ilive lase China lona vele selingembili kwala lamanye ndi emave. So ke uze ukuthi kunga generalizewa kakhulu nalapha lona lingafaki khona liyangeda kwelona kuthiwe plus China. Nakhona lapha kaShemene bokunguye president wase Uganda Museveni, kepha-ke nawo lemhlangano lona be-attende ngibo baholi belive bemave heads of states. Sihloko-ke sakulo G77 besithi-ke leave no one behind. Lokusho ukuthi akungabi khona losalela emuva, nakhona akungabi khona live lesisalela emuva lokuthuthuka, akungabi khona bantu ngekhathi even labasalela emuva ngekuthuthuka. Nakhona ukhanza ukuthi-ke leti nkulumo tiyahambisana naleti bestenda engale kanami. Live-ke lithulile inkulumo yayo ingonyama ngale kanami, nakhona la G77 sayithula inkulumo le gcizelela kona kusebenzisana nekubambisana nekuthula kanye nenqubekela phambili lesiyibona kwevenekangwane neti ngqaki letiye tibe khona lesingasithanda ukuthi sibambisane nalamanye amave ukuze ukuthi sitinqobe noma ticatulule.
Indvuna ekuhlela umnotfo nentfutfuko umhlonishwa Dr. Tambo Gina ithi laseswatini lisachubeka kahle etinhlelweni tentfutfuko njengalokubhekwe ngumhlabhlangene. Indvuna beyikhuluma eRoyal Villas nakuhlangene likomiti laka United Nations lelibuketa inhlelo tekusebenta takuleli ngaphansi kwakamhlabhlangene.
Likomiti lelibuketa inhlelo tentuthuko kamhlabhlangene lihlangene nelitiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentuthuko kubuka ukuthi livele kuphi etinhlelweni takamhlabhlangene. Sihlalo lelikomiti lekuyindvuna yetekuhlela umnotfo umhlonishwa Dr. Tambo Gina yena bangalo mhlangano.
Ikomiti ibuka tinhlelo temhlabhlangene lapha khona mhlabhlangene abambisana nelive tinhlangothini letehlukahlukene kubuka ukuthi ingabe lokho lesakusayina nga 2021 kuthi kutawusetshenziswa kuze kufike 2025 kuhamba njani, kuyalisida nilive ngikuphi lapho kufanele isiqinise khona. Sasayina sivumelwana sekuthi sithole imali enganga 120 million ngemadola aseMerica, 1.3 billion emalangeni. Kuthi-ke leyo mali sitelive kulithuthukisa etinhlelweni letahlukahlukene.
George Wachira wenhlangano yakamhlabhlangene uthi laseswatini lisebenta kahle impela etindzabeni tentuthuko.
We are gathered here this morning to look at the progress that has been made for the year 2023, the lessons we have learned in the implementation, and also to consider where we will be going in the next period, which is the year 2024, in the implementation of the program.
Uthi mhlabhlangene uyawuhlale alisekela laseswatini etindzabeni tentuthuko. Kubika Khiyani Msibi, ngisezulwini.
Indvuna yelitiko letemtsetfo nemtsetfosisekelo umhlonishwa uMvanenkosi Simelane sawudumise isandla lesifakwa bothishela ekulungiseni nasekucondziseni timilo tebantfwana, ikakhulu ngoba labanye balabantfwana baphuma emakhaya lapho khona banganakwa khona. Indvuna ikusho lokhu ngesikhathi ivakashele esikolwa sase-John Wesley eMbabane ngalesine. Kanti-ke kuvakasha kwendvuna kuyingcenye yelihlelo lolwentiwa tindvuna tembuso lwekuvakashela tikolwa kubuka ukuthi konke kuhamba kahle yini etikolweni.
Ematiko ngekwehlukana kwawo solo ayachubeka nekuvakashela tikolwa eveni kuhlolisisa inhlalakahle nenchubo etikolweni. Kanti-ke ngemsombuluko indvuna yetemtsetfo uMvanenkosi Simelane ngesikhathi ivakashele esikolwa se-John Wesley lapha eMbabane ivete kubaluleka kwabothishela ekukhuliseni bantfwana, wathi kufuna babakhulise ngetenkolo kude batawutsatsa similo seNkosi Jesu.
Uhulumende utimisele kakhulu ngetikolo, uthi uhulumende safike sidumise kubo bothishela ngalolu libito lelinalo nebemnenoba kuba ngithishela, kuba nginesi, kuba ngidokotela, lubito lo ungeke nje mane ukuthumelise ungakwehlula ekseni kusa. Kanti uma ungithishela nje unelibito ngosami uqathuthise uthi-ke uhulumende bonke sisafike sidumise kakhulu bekunene ligalelo lenidlalako etikolweni ngabo bantwana bethu.
Lo khulumele thishela nhloko weJohn Wesley Ntokozo Thela uchaza kabanti ngetinsayela lababhekana nato basikolo labafise ukuthi uhulumende abasite kuto.
Isikolo sethu sesinamo than educate but solo sidinga form 3. Lokwenda ukuthi labantwana nabaphasa lo form 3 bathole stiff competition because nearby schools don't reach first class, so bandikhanda bangene ku stiff competition.
Hulumende kubhekeke ukuthi achubeke nalolu hlelo lwakhe lokuvakashela tikolo ukuze athole isithombe lesingiso ngalokwenteka etikolweni. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Phokuhle Dlamini tithombe nguvuma inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Indvuna yetinkhundla umhlonishwa Sikhumbuzo Dlamini ithi sive semaswati lesikhuthalele intuthuko asinamathele kuhulumende wetinkhundla njengoba intuthuko ngwona mgogodla wetinkhundla. Indvuna ikusho lokhu nayetfula ibhasi lengatfala abantu labangema-70 emhlanganweni iMacuthulwini Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society emcimbini lebewubanjelwe emphakathini eMacuthulwini. Kanti-ke le bhasi itawusetjentiswa ibhizinisi.
Kube injabulo yodwa ngesikhathi emalunga langama-27 enhlangano iMacuthulwini Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society emukela nabo bumengemenge bebhasi lethulelwe bona indvuna yetinkhundla umhlonishwa Sikhumbuzo Dlamini lapha emphakathini eMacuthulwini. Le bhasi lebite ngetulu kwetigidzi letimbili temalangeni itawuhamba kusuka emafutheni ngasegedeni kumalutha iye yawungena edolobheni kaManzini iphindze ibuye khona emafutheni ngakumalutha. Emukela le bhasi sihlalo walenhlangano Cebile Magagula ubonge kakhulu kuhulumende wetinkhundla ngekubalekelela kulomsebenzi lomkhulu nakangaka.
Siyethemba ukuthi le bhasi itawuba lisito kakhulu kule sive salamacuthulwini. Angeke basaswela ukuthi batawufika ngani emakhaya.
Indvuna yetinkhundla umhlonishwa Sikhumbuzo Dlamini nayethula le bhasi iyale kakhulu wona emalunga lenhlangano kwekuthi ayiphathe ngetandla totimbili ngoba uma kungenjalo hulumende utawuphindze ayithathe.
Umuntu ukuthi uma umnika umsebenzi kufanele abonakale lo msebenzi awubamba ubange wakhe. Uthi umbuto nabe singaphiwa kungaba yini kwethu. Kambe ngeke sajabulela ukuthi ingonyama yemhlaba ithi yona itawufaka lo 90% bese leliswati lifaka 10%. Kafishane emva nenkosi selitiko siyakushumayalo ukuthi ukahle lo 10% bekunene. Singakubalekeli lokho ikakhulu ngoba usite uhulumende nasakubuka litiko tinkhundla lasi lo 10% ngete kwaba imali kuphela ngoba emasukakhala ngemali kungaba imali kube ngemandla ngalesilungu bathi bangicash noma kube in kind noma kube kokubili.
Lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yaseNgwembisi umhlonishwa Bhekibandla Vilakati likhale kakhulu ngesimo semgwaqo kule nkundla lacela ukuthi uhulumende alekelele kulungisweni kwayo imigwaqo lokutawufaka isandla ekutheni nale bhasi lehlena kangaka ikhonze.
I-crisis ngemandi even nalomphakathi esikiwo emandi abantu basakha ngemabhakede emfuleni nabe kwentekile uzama lipipe khona lapha akahlandewa akafaka amaphilisi kususa nje esicojeni yofaka endlini.
Lomunye lobeke emaveki yala kulomsebenzi kube ngumphathi sifundza sakaManzini umthane Nkosigija locinisekise sive kwekuthi uhulumende wetinkhundla utimisele kubambisana naso sisenda imisebenzi leyahlukahlukene yingci nje uma sitawufaka umfutho. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV ngumbongo Dube navuma inkosi Nzinisa emacuthulwini.
Lonxusele live leShayina sihlenge seTaiwan kuleli Jeremy Liang uthulumende welive lakhe uyawuhlala lisekela njalo leSwatini lapho ke linetidzingo khona. Kanti ke Liang bekakhuluma esikolweni lesincane saseMangwaneni eMbabane ngesikhathi sivele singephansi kwenkhundla yeMbabane West semukela layisi lelibuya khulumende weTaiwan.
Lonxusele live leShayina sihlenge seTaiwan kuleli Jeremy Liang uthi live lakhe liyawuhlala liwasekela njalo eMaswati. Liang bekakhuluma nakamukelisa sive ngaphansi kwenkhundla yaseMbabane West emasaka elilayisi langu 3.6 tons.
Today I'm bringing the rice for about 3.6 tons of rice to the people of her constituency. I'm very happy to be here. This is an ongoing operation for the embassy. We've been doing that since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, it's close to 4 years.
Uthi umkhuhlane we-COVID-19 washiyela abaningi beyide umsebenzi nekudla kungako bayawuhlala basukumela itulu kusita eMaswati. Lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yembabane West Jane Simelane libonge kakhulu kuba se-Taiwan.
Sithanda kudumisa lokwentiwa live lase-Taiwan, nguhulumende we-Taiwan, lokuthi asiphe kudla njengoba sathi ukuthi inkundla yasembabane West inkundla lene buphuya lobukhulu lene kutsinzeka nje ngetindlela letinengi iyeswele kodwa ke nasibona tinintetfu tisisita tisisekela siya lithemba liyabuya.
Kanti ke tindzawo letisiphohlongo ngaphansi kwenkundla yembabane West tizuzile kuloku. Etindzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi ngisesikolweni lesincane eMangwaneni.
Lijaha lishonile kulandzela kutsi litiphonse emfuleni lusushwane ngekusho-ke kwemngani wemufi Sandile Fashvilakati. Umufi uvele wazuba wangena kulo mfula. Tinhlambi temaphoyisa tikhonile kutakulula umtimba wemufi.
Kuthe ngalesine ekseni lijaha lenzawa kumahwalala linganiso leminyaka elinge-32 kuthiwa litiphonse kula ngumfula lisushwana. Lelijaha kuthiwa bekasela labangani bayo labane akwatiwa-ke kahle ukuthi mhlambe kube yini isizathu sokuthi lelijaha ligcine mhlambe litiphonsa khona lapha. Umngani walo Sandile Vilakati bekasahamba nalo lelijaha uchaza kabanti ngalakubonile.
Wathi ngangena mina la. Sathi thina nalo lesele naye la ngemuva sathi ungakwendi lokho. Wendani lokwesibili wanyathela lokho pavement lokho. Ashobela. Wazama ke kuphuma lapha ngaphasi ngoba ungena edzakeni. Wathi nakathi waphakama nale liteki lakhe. Walibona senjalo lapha wazama ukulithatha wehluleka. Samcontrola ke nalo lomnye ubhuti khona ubhuti ofikile lapha nguye lo ofika washutha le video ngathi mina ume kushutha ivideo asicontrole lo mnako. Samcontrola nomnye sister samdonsa wayedzakeni. Wathi nakafika lapha ngasedzakeni ngilafika khona phelele emandla washobela phasi.
Inhlambi yamaphoyisa abongani Dlamini ucele eMaswati ukuthi akacaphele angasonzeli emifuleni ikakhulu mhlambi lapha esikhathini khona imifula leminyenti yaleli igcwele kulandzela imvula letinyenti litholwe live.
Sesithola umbiko ukuthi kukhona lo sa agcumukele emandini kahle bathi udingenele yena njengoba lihlobo selinje imfula igcwele ingenisile nemadamu konke sicela sigweme Nkosi yami kusonzele tindzaweni letinjengaleto noma ke nakubonakala ukuthi wela umfula nangabe uya emsebentini noma abantwana baya esikolweni kepha ke sithi nangabe bafikile uthi uyefika uya emsebentini wakhanza umfula uhamba la ungavami uhamba khona emanti sicela mane ume noma ke ushayele licingo ushayele emsebentini ukuthi sonenkinga.
Umbiko wemaphoyisa ukhomba ukuthi kusuka ngenyanga yengci eminyakeni lophelile kuze kube kuleli langa lanamuhla sebayimfica abantu abashone ngekumitha khona emifuleni kuleli etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginathemba Shabango sisemathapha emahala.
Umphathi wemnyango wecondzisa timilo netigwegwe lobekamelelwe ngu-Assistant Commissioner Kenneth Dlamini unxusa abantu bemango waseGundvini kuthi bangabecwayi labo labake bahlala ejele nasebabuyile emangweni.
Umnyango wecondzisa timilo netigwegwe ngaphansi esiteshi sasenhlangano sawakhele umndeni wakaMsibi lodzingile indlu yokulala. Lo mndeni waseGundvini ngaphansi emphakathi wasembangweni. Lomele umphathi wemnyango wecondzisa timilo netigwegwe lekungu-Assistant Commissioner Kenneth Dlamini ukutsata tisebenti talomnyango testeshi sasenhlangano kutsi tingapheli mandla kunaka bantfu labadzingile.
Kuba into lenhle ukuthi mabaphuma la ngekhathi la sibacize khona befike babamukele la emangweni. Sito promoter lokho nje ukuthi abamukele la emangweni sesiba correctile thina ngekhathi sabanika lawo maskisi labatholile abafike emangweni babemukele nathi siya encourage ukuthi akuqhubeke kube njalo sibasite abantu by so doing busweti bungehla eveni.
William Msibi longubabe walelikhaya lohlala namake wakakhe kanye nebatukulu labane wendlulisa emagama ekudibongela.
Ngihlule ukuthi ngidabona ngitsini kule nto leniwendele yona. Umdalo utangikhulumela kule sive senkosi esingisona singisikile sangikhipha ehlathini sakufaka la.
Umphathi wesiteshi salomnyango lesisenhlangano Elliot Zikalala uthi sedinsathi udindlu lesedakhiwe ti70 talomnyango kanzi angakapheli umnyaka losetulu batawuphinze babuke nalelinye elikhaya lelinesidingo sekwakhelwa indlu kulesifunza. Zikalala uthi ti70 talomnyango tesiteshi sasenhlangano diyayinikele imali lengu50 wamalangeni njalo ngenyanga. Le ibese isetshenziswa kuthengela labadzingile kudla kanye nekubakhela tindlu tekulala. Lobika-ke tindzabeni te-Eswatini TV nguthando kuhle Mdluli ngisegundvini.
Invodzala ebeta amagcekeza lelinye elikhaya endzaweni yasenkhaba ishonelwe lilanga emini nayibanjwa takhamuti isata magcekeza letakhamuti tibese tibita emaphoyisa.
Emaswati ayaye athi nabe kuluphoyisa lokusho ukuthi nguloyo ubhekela lomunye etindzabeni tebucala. Indodza lesolakala ukuthi beyitama kugcekeza lelinye likhaya enkhaba ngalesithathu ekuseni iphicwe timpengu tayo nayibanjwa sive isese sento ingene kulelinye likhaya. Ngekusho kabuchopho wasenkhaba Mandla Malaza benele kuyibamba-ke le ndodza yasho-ke nokuthi vele ngiyo lebeyisolo iganga enkhaba njengoba labaningi besolo bakhala.
Angivula umnyango wakami ngase-sitting room ngibona ngasekhishini kwatshuliwe. Ngishaye ngale ngenhla ngasekhaya nabomakhelwane ukuthi kude nemuntu abambonile ofaka isigcoko lesikanje ibendlulile. Bakhuluma ukuthi hayi bambonile ubheke ngalanga ngigijime ngiyojuka ngembili ngihamba ngemoto. Nangenibita lapho ngikhanze ukuthi umuntu le ngumadiki abalele. Simbambeke lo muntu-ke vele sinalo mmango. Sithole ukuthi bese kathathene licingo bekangenile endlini vele wagcekeza wathatha licingo. Litholakala leli cingo khona lapha kuye. Sibambisene nalo mmango. Kwaze kwafika amaphoyisa amthatha wakhuluma-ke netindzaba letinye ukuthi bekavamisile kuya kuyogcekeza letinye tindzaba. Labanye nje abantu bakhala kusho ukuthi balahlekelwe yini avume akhiphe nalabanye futhi lakanabo.
Kanti-ke lokukhulumela emaphoyisa Senior Superintendent Phindile Vlakati-ke uvumile ukuthi abese abamabili emadvodza lasolakala ukuthi nguwona aganga endzaweni yasenkhaba lekabanjwe kusitwa sive. Labese-ke alethelwa wona-ke emaphoyisa. Endzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi, eMbabane.
Indzabeni temidlalo inkampani iLactalis Eswatini seyesekele umchudzelwano we-Resolution Run walonyaka ngemali lengu-70,000 emalangeni. Kanti-ke lo mchudzelwane utawube ubanjwa kwesiphohlongo kulomnyaka kubhekeke ukuthi ubanjwe mhla ka-17 kule nyanga lesetulu Mlilwane.
I-Big Game Parks ngekubambisana nenhlangano emidlalo emadubana lapha eveni bayachubeka nemalungiselelo eLactalis Mlilwane Resolution Run yalonyaka letawubanjela khona eMlilwaneni. Xolani igama lobukete kumaketha khona eBig Game Parks uthi isizathu salomgcutselwano kutama kubambisa eMaswati ukuthi aqale umnyaka lomusha kahle netifiso letinsha ekushukumiseni umtimba.
Le event yethu ke system asiyibuka sibita ngekuthi i-resolution run. Resolution run sivamise ukuthi makuphela umnyaka khanze ukuthi umuntu utawumeka ema-resolutions of ukuthi ufuna kuba healthy, they want to spend time with nature and they want to spend time with family. Sathi sengumlilwane game century. Yini singakulethi lokho kubantu sithi thina sitaniketa na event that is going to play in line ngekuba healthy, iphinze iplay in line ngekuba ku nature, iphinze iplay in line with spending time with family.
Victor Dlamini lokhulumela inhlangano emidlalo emadubana uthi kulomnyaka babuke ukuthi tinombolo tingeteke talabo labatawungenela lo mgcutselwano.
Lokukhila ngilokuthi sicela ukuthi sive sisibambise. Last year, the numbers betishobo 370, but this time around, it target yethu ngu-700 wema athletes. Umvakasho lokuthi as a federation, asimbonge Big Game Park lokuthi abe partner yethu ekuphusheni le event yabo.
Inhlangano iLactalis Eswatini isekele lo mgcutselwano ngemali lengu-70,000 emalangeni. Lucky Phiri uchazile ukuthi lokhu yindlela yalenhlangano ekubuyisela isiveni.
So the total sponsorship package is 70,000 emalangeni, of which it's broken down into two sections. 45,000 emalangeni, it's a cash
sponsorship, and then 25,000 it's a sponsorship in terms of stock.
Kwanyalo sabangitulu wa 400 labo lababhalisile kungenela lo mgcuzelwano kanzi kubhaliswa kutawuvalwa mhla ka9 kule nyanga lesetulu kanzi lo mgcuzelwano utawubanjwa mhla ka17 le nyanga lesetulu. Lo mgcuzelwano uhlanganiswa kathathu kune-21 kilometers, 10 kilometers kanye ne-5 kilometers. Lobike lumsakade Eswatini TV temidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kaZumbeko uhlanganiswe nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Sitaphetha ngaleyo ndzaba teSwati sitabuka simo selitulo sibahlwe at market nasibuya sikhulumisana navusi Norman Dlamini from Eswatini Revenue Service.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Hello and welcome to Eswatini TV and to a brand new talk show called A Cuppa with Nomgebo. And I do what I have to do because I know where I'm going. All 5 of my mothers have inspired me.
So the addiction didn't happen then. It happened again another 8 years later. But that's where it started.
Choices I made at the time were not the best choices for myself.
I understand how a person can lose their mind in terms of life experiences.
That's what it looks like, and I like that. But you know what? The journey to my success is never a straight line.
Yeah, people are on the net now, and that's where we'd like to catch them with such shows.
I'm a very, very, very
Hello, ma.
I know. Ngikimbele.
Ngicela ukubhadalana le mali yakho. Ngijabulise kakhulu shame.
Imali yebhizinisi ayidliwa wayidla udabulala phansi.
Hayi ngimsebenzi yethu lesindako la ekhaya njengoba niyibona limihle nakangaka.
Ngiyagolosha, which is crocheting.
Ngiyakhicita ke noko kakhulu emsebenzini wethu ikhumba.
Ngenda kodaba emacici nokodaba entsanyeni.
Ngilungisa emagedlela. Hello, how are you? We are selling peanuts at 5. Thank you so much. Umdala kubusi. On the strat, babe.
Let me tell you about my crush.
Ngenzale inhlitiyo yami embi kwakho njengekudala.
Nkonje isiswayo.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Asimizela sinimukele sixolisa ngaloko kuphadamiseka sodo siteka yona indzaba ya Pay as you earn navusi Dlamini long communications director kampani Eswatini Revenue Service ngabe lesihlanu siteka dona nje indzaba tekubhadalwa kwemithelo sifuna ukuva ukuthi yini yona le Pay as you earn ubani loyibhadalako Nkosi asekuvusela once again thank you for joining us on the show Pay as you earn ngiyakhombela ukuthi vele kumele ukuthi ibhadalwe esebenzini but ngikuchazela nje abani ukuthi yini ibhadalelwana yona
sibonge nelithuba nalamuhle kuseni i-Pay as you earn kusho ukuthi sithi ngumthelo wetisebenzi it's employee tax ngisho ukuthi ngumthelo lona lobanjwa kuso sisebenzi nangabe kusho ukuthi siyafika kulelo zinga lokuthi sibanjelwe lona mthelo so I think lamuhla lokumcoka kakhulu lesifuna ukukhuluma kuyo indzaba ye-Pay as you earn ikakhulukati ngilabo bosomabhizinisi lokhanza ukuthi abakawubhaliseli lo mthelo kanzi banato tisebenzi uthi ke lo mgomo wemthelo waze wacala kusebenza nangabe kusho ukuthi unalelo business lakho waba netisebenzi kuleyo business yakho so ubhalisile wena njengebhizinisi noma leyo ngaphandle kubhalisela umthelo kuyaye bese kuyabhekeka ukuthi uphenze ubhalise lo tisebenzi utibhalisele i-Pay as you earn
ngabe kumele ukuthi nangibekise nje nangicala kusebenza Eswatini TV ngibekisa ngemsombuluko kumele ukuthi umcashi wami abhalisele nini ukuthi utawuthatha ERS emholweni le-Pay as you earn
kusho ukuthi siyaye sithi nangabe uyayicala leyo business yakho and then you hire so not unetisebenzi ngoba siyathi kunama business lokungendeka do kungakavami ukuthi ekusebenzeni kwawo asebenze abebede tisebenzi akukavami do ngiko sithi kufuna sitela lihlelweni kusho ukuthi uthi ngekuyibhalisa leyo business yakho kufuna ukuthi within 14 days ube ubhalisile leto tisebenzi takho noma ubhalisile ukuthi wena so ungumcashi kusho ukuthi njengoba ubekisa nayicala leyo business yakho akukafanele kuphele emaviki lamabili ingakabhalisi kubhalisela leto tisebenzi immediately nangabe seyiticashile leto tisebenzi so we need to know nathi and be alerted ukuthi business yami bengibhalisile kona ukuthi itawusebenza kepha nyalo sengicashe abantu labatawusebenza kuleyo business within 14 days kufuna ubhalisile
Ungabe kahle kahle lamabhizinisi Nkosi kumele ukuthi abhalisele i-Pay as you earn sakumele ukuthi nabasomabhizinisi labancane bekise nje mhlambe bayathunga benda lokho naloko bayapheka nedisebenzi letisebenzi labo ngimaphi kahle kahle amabhizinisi nalapho ba-obligated ukuthi babhalisele i-pay as you earn.
Siyaye sithi nangabe kusho ukuthi leyo business yakho ibhizinisi ngoba kufuna sikwende kube clear ukuthi yini ibhizinisi. Ibhizinisi sitawuthi kuqala into thide uyicalele injongo yakho ukuthi ufuna kwakha imali. Kusho ukuthi that is a business. Kungaba ungayibhalisa ke business uyibhalise ibe ingapane, ungayibhalisa mhlawumbe kube ngileyo partnership, ungayenda futhi ibe ngileyo sole trader lokusho ukuthi business lencane. Labanye ukhanza ukuthi kunema trust lamanye ukhanza ukuthi kuna akhona amabhizinisi I mean akudikhona tisebenzi kulokunye ukhanza ukuthi kungaba ngilawo ma cooperatives nakhona tikhona tisebenzi. Siyaye sithi immediately wabhalisa nje kubhalisela ukuthi sowutawuba netisebenzi kulo noma ngabe ngiluphi ihlobo lebusiness yakho sibheka ukuthi you must also register for the tisebenzi takho for pay as you earn purposes.
Okay, ingabe Nkosi, how do they go about registering? Can they do it online? What documents are needed ukuthi register my employees akhe?
The registration process is it's very simple one. Kusho ukuthi kunel form loligcwalisako lesithi it's the same tin registration form lo yayulugcwalisa nawubhalisa leyo business yakho. You complete that very same form, but ke utawube sesowuthikha kule section let's say you are registering for pay as you earn lokusho ukuthi you are registering as an employer. Lama forms ethu ke akhona ku website yethu, ungakhona ukuthi uli-download ku website yethu uligcwalise, uthi ngeke uligcwalisa bese uyala attach noma uli-email nangabe kusho leyo business yakho obviously would be registered ku e-tax, ungalifaka through e-tax platform. Sitawube sesiyakhona ukuthi silithole noma usi-emailele lona. Nangabe kusho ukuthi awukhona mhlawumbe kwenda lokho ama-service centers ethu akhona ePixpic eMbabane, kuMathapha, kaManzini enhlangano nasesiteki. So ungakhona ukuthi ulitholele lo form lapho uligcwalise bese uyasinika futhi nakhona.
Okay, ingabe nje Nkosi case lapho khona mhlawumbe employees oresignile kuleyo msebenzi loyo, ingabe umcashi unesikhathi esinganani sokunotify i-IRS ukuthi akasekho ku pay as you earn?
Kusho ukuthi nalapho siyaye sithi first of all sikhumbule ukuthi on a monthly basis utabe umbambela loyo muntu nangabe utabe ubika whether actually uyawubhadala umthelo we-pay as you earn noma akawubhadali. Crucial ukuthi usibikele ukuthi nathi 70 tam tingaka letiholile kule nyanga ke noma letiholile ku-payroll yami kule nyanga na imali labayiholile nangabe kunemthelo bawubhadele. Obviously nangabe sekukhona lo uhambile siyaye bese siyabheka ukuthi nakhona nawenda leyo payroll yakho you will have to inform us within about 14 days I think again ukuthi umuntu ku payroll yami sekukhona lo sangekho so that we are also well aware.
Nangabe umcashi so yehluleka ku register, what are the repercussions nje from IRS?
Our income tax order speaks to because it's expected vele ukuthi ubhalise because lomunye umthelo lomkhulu lesiwubuthako as a country is pay as you earn. Shothi nje pay as you earn VAT, those are the main taxes that are collected in this country. So you must register, and if you don't register, the income tax order ibese impose certain fines. I think there's a fine of about 10,000 if good discover good, but you'll be seen as someone that is trying to run away from kubhadala umthelo. It can also lead to so you go into prison for a period of 1 year, I think. So it's important that you comply as an employer and ensure that you register for pay as you earn as soon as you employ people. And then critical you must ensure that you deduct pay as you earn for those employees laba qualifiable and bring that pay as you earn to the ERS within or after 7 days or 14 days from the time when you have or at the end of the month. Actually after every end of the month within 14 days, should by the 14th essentially
kufuna ube uyilethile leyo phezulu.
Speaking of compliance nema-deductions njengosi niye nibe nayo inkinga enkampanini kwanza ukuthi mhlawumbe adiyithathi leyo adiyilethi i-PSUN yebaqashi batho kuba khona ukukhanza ukuthi likhona inkampani ethile mhlawumbe engacomply kahle nalo kuhambisana ne-ERS.
Yes, our level of compliance vele is particularly we will always say you find that we see it a lot in the small and medium enterprises. Akhona ke nalamanye ma entities we need to emphasize ukuthi i-PSUN once why deduct because the assumption is that when you are planning that business now uthi nje utawuholela lulu umbekise utamholela 1,000 let's say 10,000 emalangeni you will be telling Lulu about that clause, but then you know what would see part of that, which is a certain percentage will be PSUN. It is then expected good naso umpatele Lulu on a monthly basis. The portion lenye which is supposed to be taxed, which you were supposed to pay to Lulu, because the PSUN gahlele ya Lulu ayipatalwa nguwena, which is an agent of collecting it from Lulu and then passing it over to the government, which is why we emphasize ukuthi now ucetha kuba holela bamvu siyabe siyabheka ukuthi as long as baholile siyabe siyabheka ukuthi kufuna bayilethe baqashe leyo PSUN. We do see some challenges kulabanye, and unfortunately it becomes an offense that is quite serious because you have deducted the money from the individual. It's very critical that you bring it to the state.
Alright, kokugcina nje nkonsi mhlawumbe kusichazela ukuthi nitfolakala kuphi ama-service centers enu countrywide.
Ema-service centers ethu ikhona eSbigi, ikhona eMbabane, Matsapa, Ngamanzini, Enhlangano kanye naseStegi. We are also available on our online platforms. Sikhona ku-contact center yethu, inombolo yethu is 2406 4050 noma 7606 3735, which is our WhatsApp line. Siyatholakala futhi na ku Facebook. People can always contact us. We are also there on LinkedIn. They can contact us and we can be able to assist them.
All right, thanks so much Nkosi Sibongakhulu Mbukeli. Sawuthi vele all about i-pay as you earn, ngokuthi uregister kanjani nokuthi ibhadalwa bobani kahle kahle. But if you do have any more questions, you can contact Baga ERS kuma service centers penza futhi na ku WhatsApp line yabo. Let's take a break. Stop best to connect.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the Kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
This weekend, Eswatini, your official weekend party starter. Tune in for the best of entertainment. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send your shout outs. Be sure to catch our movie segment where we review and give updates on all latest movies. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. You know the vibes, it's the beat down. The time is 8 p.m. It's time for you to relax. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the music videos that I got for you.
Moving no direction, like it's a calling. Been alive in the middle of nowhere. Shake the ground and burn the air. So yeah, yeah. You don't have to hold back for anything or anyone. Just on this.
Asimze sinemukele as mentioned earlier ukuthi sizabe sikhulumisana na PRO we-Swazi Boy Entertainment njengoba khumbula ukuthi this weekend tomorrow kutabe kunema Eswatini Creators Award formerly known as Social Media Awards abuya for the 4th edition kusasa, and there are a few categories langetiwe kuwo lo msebenzi. I'm joined by Nokwanda Sibanzi, who's the PRO Swazi Boy Entertainment, to tell us more about these awards. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Mnyaka was 4. Congratulations and well done to you guys. Tell us about the name change from Social Media Awards to Eswatini, to Eswatini Creators Award. Ne vision nje yamthunzi as acabanga ukuthi kube nalama awards lawo.
So the name change from Social Media Awards to Eswatini Creators Awards was basically just solely to include more creators. We realized that not all creatives are in the social media space. Give an example like our architects. They don't really use social media as much as your YouTubers. So we wanted to create a space where every creator in the country, from whatever industry that they are from, is celebrated and is able to also join on the awards.
Okay. Yes. So the competition has entered its 4th edition. Tell us about the journey. The first Social Media Awards to now, any growth, particularly, from the artists and participation, the public, and you're going to nominate one of the artists, creators.
Definitely. From the first year, we had a lot of categories, but every year we have been cutting down and grouping them because the more the awards are growing, the more work and the more energy that needs to be put in it. So from the first year, we have grown tremendously. The interactions from people in Maswati interacting with us on social media is quite impressive, and this year I would like to say it has been the biggest interaction we've had since the awards started. Yeah.
Speaking of the categories, about over 20 categories.
Yes, we have added architects, upcoming architects, if you may say, and we've also added software designers. As we have said that the name changed, wanted to include people in those spaces. So we've added the 2 categories, and we also have special awards. Usually it's one special award from the CEO, but this year we've decided to give 3 people special awards, people that have made an impact in the creative space and in the entertainment space. Yes.
Ingabe nani during the nomination phase, I should nominate the public. Ingabe ni yamubuka yini leyo nominee ukuthi do they qualify to be part of the awards? Noma mhlambe if a public ifaka nje igama niyalifaka niyalista as nominations and then bese kuyavotwa.
Luckily, Eswatini are very great when it comes to this because they usually just nominate the people who are in that particular industry for that particular category. So kukancane la ukhanza ukuthi khona bayadlala abafaka umvulo ongekho in the space. So it's easier for us as well when we're looking through the people's pages, because we then go through their pages and see if they are really in that space. So it's really easy, and Eswatini stands up for that because they do help us out a lot.
So you call any diversity, and it following about it's one of the same people from the first edition of the awards.
Yes, kunema categories lapho khona the popular faces, I may say, are repeated every year. But with each and every category, I would say every year we do see 1 or 2 different people or more people in the previous awards. And since people are allowed to nominate as a nominee, you're allowed to decline the nomination. Yes, they do decline. They are not in the right space to be in the public eye at the moment. Can they please decline? And we're able to then pick the next person on the line. So we do see a lot of new people. Each and every year.
Yeah. So voting lines, are they closed?
Yes. Voting lines are closed because the awards are tomorrow, and we're excited. Yeah.
Have you been able to count the votes?
Yes, we have an independent auditor that does that for us, so it's not in our hands. We don't even know who's going to win, so we also cannot wait to see.
Yes. Going back to your participation in your public, ingabe mhlambe injabulisa kangakanani ukuthi they nominate, they vote, bayafuna vele to be part of the awards.
Yeah, I can say the nomination stages are the most hectic ones that we have because the interactions are through the roof when people are nominating their favorites, whether it's YouTuber, makeup artist, and ngilawubona khona ukuthi emaswati nakathi ayakubambisa. There's a lot of nominations that we get. I think the nomination stages are the most hectic ones. Even on the voting side, we have introduced 4 different types of voting systems so that emaswati onke because lamanye akakhoni look SMS kunabo Momo, kunabo Mitra, kunabo Instacash. All those voting platforms also are now, they show that emaswati are really voting, and the interaction from emaswati is massive.
Yeah, okay. So nasibuka kusasa, the event yendega is happening tomorrow. In terms of preparedness, you know, konke sekumenge mumo in artists, performances, what can we expect tomorrow evening?
Tomorrow is going to be great. We are ready. The venue is set. We're just waiting for Emaswati to come through in their African clam.
That's the theme.
Yes, that's the theme. Yes, so we're just excited for everyone to come through. We have performances for the day. We have surprise performances for the day throughout the night, and we can't wait to celebrate our stars.
Local artists.
Yes, local
comedians,
artists.
I hope.
You know, you'll see. Poets and everything, yes.
What time does the event start?
Those will open at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. So we give them an hour for the orange carpet walk, yes. So the event will start at 5 p.m.
Are you guys going to be live streaming, Noma?
We're hoping you guys will be there tomorrow.
Okay.
To cover the event. But yeah, the event is ready.
Yes.
All
right. That's great. Thank you so much. All the best for tomorrow. Mbugeli, that was Nogwanda Sibanza, who's a PRO, where Swazi Boy Entertainment is Kulma Bandima, Eswatini Creators Awards, Lepe Guti Endege Gusasa and Tamba. Let's take a break. So rest back.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibugo Semaswati.
This weekend, Eswatini, your official weekend party starter. Tune in for the best of entertainment. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send your shout-outs. Be sure to catch our movie segment where we review and give updates on all latest movies. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Let me tell you about my crush. Nenzale inhlitiyo yami embi kwakho njengebudala.
Ngondlo isiswayo.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is the news at 7. His Excellency Prime Minister Russell Dlamini is back home from Uganda in Italy, where he was representing His Majesty King Mswati III at the G77 Plus China Summit and the Italy-Africa Summit. The Premier arrived through the Ngwenya border gate on Thursday evening.
Conference or summit lebesiye kuyo emave nje lati tshela ukuthi wona akangenelani noma ati akadingeni tindzabadala amanye emave kugcizelele lokuthi ayaqhubeka kuleto timiso tawo but ancoma kakhulu ukuthi abambane sale asebenzisana wona kuze ukuthi athuthuke. Lokhu bengilokukhulu ke lapho ngilokuthi lo abe chairman wayo bekuyiCuba sekushintshile ke sekube sekuthatha yena president wase-Uganda Yoweri Museveni. Ekukhulumeni kwakhe ke yena Yoweri Museveni ugcizelele nje ukuthi emave akasebenzisane kanye ase South nemave langadingene tindzabadalamnyama kuze ukuthi athuthuke ngekuthekiselana, but aphindze futhi abeke embili ukuthula, internal peace, khona la khatsi emaveni wagcizelela nje kakhulu kwekuthi kumqoka kakhulu ukuthi kube nekuthula nestability emaveni. Kube seke sekuba ne-declaration leyendiwe khona leya Kampala, nayo leyo declaration iqinisa kakhulu lokusebenzisana kwalamave langentasi. Mhlawumbe wesibili ke kube khona le Kampala nakuphela le NAM lethathe emalanga lamabili kwasike kucala lenye lokuthiwa i-Group 77 plus China. Le Group 77 plus China kuyona inhlangano nje yemave lasathuthuka, kepha-ke abane-China ngetulo. Lokuthi kushiwo ukuthi plus China kulokuthi ilive lase-China lona vele selingembili kwala lamanye ndi emave. So-ke kuze ukuthi kungageneralizwa kakhulu nalapha lona lingafaki khona liyangeta kwelona kuthiwe plus China. Nakhona lapha kaShemene bokunguye president wase-Uganda Museveni, kepha-ke nawo lemhlangano lona be-attende ngibo baholi belive bemave heads of states. Sihloko ke sakulo G77 besithi ke leave no one behind. Lokusho ukuthi akungabi khona losalela emuva, nakhona akungabi khona live lesalela emuva lokuthuthuka, akungabi khona bantu ngekhathi even labasalela emuva ngekuthuthuka. Nakhona ukhanza ukuthi ke leti nkulumo tiyahambisana naleti bestenda engaleka nami. Liveke lithulile inkulumo yayo ingonyama ngaleka nami nakhona la G77 sayithula inkulumo le gcizelela kona kusebenzisana nekubambisana nekuthula kanye nenqubekela phambili lesibona kweveni kangwane neti ngqaki letiye tibe khona lesingasithanda ukuthi sibambisane nalamanye amave ukuze ukuthi sitinqobe noma ticatulule.
The Minister of Economic Planning, Honorable Dr. Tambo Gina, says Eswatini is still on track on the UN Agenda 2030. The minister was speaking at Royal Villas during the Joint National Steering Committee meeting with the United Nations on Wednesday.
The Joint National Steering Committee is important because it is an accountability forum on the contribution of the United Nations in making sustainable development in Eswatini. The chairperson of the Joint Committee, Dr. Tambo Gina, the Minister of Economic Planning, elaborates on the meeting.
Le committee ibuka tinhlelo temhlabhlangene lapha khona mhlabhlangene bambisana nelive tinhlangothini letehlukahlukene kubuka ukuthi ingabe lokho lesakusayinanga 2021 kuthi kutawusetshenzwa kuze kufike 2025 kuhamba njani, kuyalisida nilive ngoba lapha kufanele siqinise khona. Sasayina sivumelwana sekuthi sithole imali lenganga 120 million ngemadola aseMerica, 1.3 billion emalangeni. Kuthi ke leyo mali sitelive kulithuthukisa etinhlelweni letahlukahlukene.
The UN resident coordinator in Eswatini, George Wachira, explains on the importance of the meeting.
We are gathered here this morning to look at the progress that has been made
for the year 2023, the lessons we have learned in the implementation, and also to consider where we will be going in the next period, which is the year 2024, in the implementation of the program.
He says the United Nations is committed to supporting integrated financing assessments and policies to help Eswatini. Reporting, I am Kian Msibi at the Royal Villas, Ezulwini.
The Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Honorable Prince Simelane, has applauded school teachers for the different roles they play in sharpening and enhancing the child's character, more especially because some of them do not have parents or guardians. The Minister expressed this yesterday when paying a visit to the John Wesley School in Mbabane.
The touring of different schools in the country by different cabinet ministers is still ongoing, and on Monday, the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Prince Simelane, paid a visit to the John Wesley School in Mbabane, where he highlighted the vital importance teachers play in sharpening the upbringing of the child. Simelane says raising a child through beliefs and customs can help them become a better version of themselves.
Uhulumende utimisele kakhulu ngetikolo uthi uhulumende safike sithumise kubo bothishela ngalolu lubito lelinalo nebemnenoba kuba ngithishela kuba nginesi kuba ngidokotela lubito lo ungeke nje mane ukuthumelise ungakwehlula ekseni kusa kanti mawuthishela nje unelibito ngosami uqathutise uthi teke uhulumende bongo sisafike sidumise kakhulu bekunene ligalelo lenidlalako etikolweni ngabo bantwana bethu.
Ntokozo Tsela, who stood in for the school's principal, explains further about the challenges they are facing as a school and pleads with government to intervene.
School sethu sesina more than educate, but solo sidinga form 3. Lokwenda ukuthi labantwana nabaphasa lo form 3 bathole stiff competition because nearby schools don't merit first class, so but the candidate banging a stiff competition.
Government will continue touring these schools until they have a clear picture of the underlying issues that need to be addressed. Reporting for Eswatini TV, I am Poguhle Dlamini, pictures by Vumingosi Nzinisa in Mbabane.
The Minister of Tinkhundla Development and Administration, Honorable Sikhumbuzo Dlamini, says Emaswati who are determined to develop themselves and their communities should stick with Tinkhundla as development is the heartbeat of government. The Honorable Minister said this during a handover ceremony wherein government donated a bus with a load capacity of 70 people to Maqutulini Multipurpose Cooperative Society in a ceremony held at Maqutulini Umphakathi. The bus will be used for business purposes.
It was all joy and jubilation for the 27-member Maqutulini Multipurpose Cooperative Society when the Minister of Tinkhundla Administration and Development, Honorable Sikhumbuzo Dlamini, handed over a state-of-the-art bus worth over 2 million emalangeni. The bus's route will start from Mafuteni near Maluta Border Gate via Mangayane to Manzini and back. The chairperson of the society, Cebile Makakula, expressed her gratitude to government for the assistance in acquiring this important asset.
Siyethemba ukuthi le bhasi itawuba lisito kakhulu kule sive sala Maqutulwini. Angeke basaswela ukuthi batawufika ngani emakhaya.
The Minister of Tinkhundla, Honorable Sikhumbuzo Dlamini, wanted the society to take extra care of the bus.
Umuntu ukuze umnika umsebenzi kufuna abonakale lo msebenzi awubamba ubange wakhe. Uthi umbuto nabe singaphiwa kungaba yini kwethu. Kambe ngeke sajabulela ukuthi ingonyama yemhlaba ithi yona itawufaka lo 90% bese leliswati lifaka 10%.
When one is given an opportunity, they must show appreciation by working hard and not let down government's efforts. His Majesty's government contributes 90% to projects of this nature, and the association contributes 10% in the form of cash, labor, or both. As a ministry, we think this is a fair deal.
The Member of Parliament for Ngwembisi Nkundla, Honourable Bhekibandla Vilakati, lamented the bad state of the roads in the constituency and implored government to rehabilitate the roads so as to facilitate a sustainable operation of the new bus.
I-crisis ngemandi. Even nalo mphakathi esikuwo lo amandi bantu basakha ngemabhakede emfuleni.
We also have a water crisis in this area. People use untreated water from the streams.
The Manzini Regional Administrator also passed words of advice to the society and assured the nation that government is all about helping people realize fulfilling livelihoods. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Mbongwa Dube, Vumenkosi Nzinisa, Matutulwini.
The Republic of China on Taiwan Ambassador Jeremy Liang says the government of Taiwan will always assist Eswatini and meet her needs anytime. He was speaking at Mangwaneni when Babane West residents received a rise from the Republic of China on Taiwan.
The Republic of China Taiwan Ambassador to Eswatini Jeremy Liang says the government of Taiwan will always help Eswatini and meet their needs at all times.
Today I'm bringing the rice for about 3.6 tons of rice to the people of her constituency. I'm very happy to be here. This is an ongoing operation for the embassy. We've been doing that since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, it's close to 4 years.
Babane West Member of Parliament Jane Simelane passed her gratitude to the government of Taiwan for their gracious donation.
Sithandza kudumisa lokwenziwa live lase-Taiwan nguhulumende we-Taiwan lokuthi asiphe kudla njengoba sathi ukuthi inkundla yaseMbabane West inkundla lenebuphuya lobukhulu lenekutsinzeka nje ngetindlela letiningi iyeswele kodwa ke nasibona tinintetfu tisisita tisisekela siyalithemba liyabuya.
8 places under the Mbabane West constituency also benefited. Reporting, I am Kian Msibi, Mbabane.
In international news, European Union leaders unanimously agreed on Thursday to extend 50 billion euros in aid to Ukraine, the chairman of the summit said, overcoming weeks of resistance from Hungary.
Just an hour of summit negotiations and a deal is struck. The European Union agrees on a new 50 billion euro aid package for Ukraine, overcoming weeks of veto threats from Hungary. European Council President Charles Michel made the announcement, and the President of the European Parliament hailed the breakthrough.
Ukraine is our priority, and that is why we needed this agreement today by all 27 member states and from within the EU budget. This will give the credibility, the legitimacy and the predictability that is expected from us, because Ukraine's security is Europe's security.
Ahead of the summit, leaders piled pressure on Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, but his lifting the veto, and that quickly, was a surprise. Russia's closest ally in the EU, Orban had demanded the ability to carry out an annual review of the aid package with a right to veto it. But other EU leaders didn't want Orban to control Ukraine's future because of his proximity to Russia's Vladimir Putin. The deal reached Thursday does include the option to review the package in 2 years, quote, if needed, but no veto power for Hungary. Ukraine's president thanked EU leaders, saying,
"It's very important that the decision was made by all 27 leaders, which once again proves strong EU unity."
Nearly 2 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the nation's economy desperately needs support. This package will send EU funds to Ukraine through 2027.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg gave a public apology in U.S. Congress on Wednesday as hostile lawmakers grilled tech chiefs over the dangers that children face on social media platforms. The executives convened by the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee were to put task in a session titled Big Tech and the Online Child Sexual Exploitation Crisis.
CEOs of Meta, TikTok, and X were in Washington Wednesday to defend their platforms against accusations of not doing enough to protect children. American legislators are concerned about dangerous content, including challenges in which teens do life-threatening tricks to impress their peers.
I want to recognize the families who are here today who have lost a loved one or lived through some terrible things that no family should have to endure. These issues are important for every parent and every platform. I'm committed to continuing to work in these areas, and I hope we can make progress today.
The hearings come as Congress enters its third year trying to pass the Kids Online Safety Act called KOSA. Social media companies have been shielded from liability for much of the content on their platforms, as they provide an outlet for expression but do not create the content themselves. If passed, KOSA would allow each state's attorney general to individually decide what parts of the internet anyone under 16 years old can and cannot access. Social media companies would be required to monitor all speech on their platforms and filter it based on each state's laws. The bill would allow states' attorneys general to sue platforms if they believe that minors have been harmed.
It is time for us to make certain that big tech stops looking at our children as the product.
KOSA has been controversial as conservative lawmakers have openly said they will use it to censor information about resources for LGBT youth. The bill has been opposed by major human rights organizations such as the American Civil Liberties Union, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, and the Human Trafficking Prevention Project.
Chinese government hackers are busily targeting water treatment plants, the electrical grid, transportation systems, and other critical infrastructure inside the United States.
An ominous warning from the director of the FBI. Speaking at a congressional committee, Christopher Wray said that Chinese government-backed hackers were gearing up to cause real-world harm to Americans.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike. Low blows against civilians are part of China's plan.
The warning came the same day that US officials said they had intercepted an extensive Chinese hacking operation attributed to a group known as Volt Typhoon. The group allegedly infiltrated hundreds of routers to access sensitive infrastructure. Allegations that a spokesperson at China's embassy in Washington dismissed as irresponsible criticism. On Wednesday, Wray said hackers are targeting critical infrastructure, including the power grid, water treatment plants, and oil and gas pipelines. An alarming prospect, the committee's chairman said.
This is the cyberspace equivalent of placing bombs on American bridges, water treatment facilities, and power plants. The sole purpose is to be ready to destroy American infrastructure, which would inevitably result in chaos, confusion, and potentially mass casualties.
Beijing has in the past denied claims of hacking attempts. In recent weeks, both US and Chinese officials have tried to ease hostilities between the two superpowers. US media reported that in November, Xi Jinping told Joe Biden that Beijing would not tamper with the 2024 US election. But tensions continue to run high over a range of issues, including the status of self-ruled Taiwan, trade, and Beijing's human rights record.
Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife were sentenced on Wednesday to 14 years in prison for corruption. His lawyer and prison officials said a day after another special court convicted Khan of leaking state secrets and gave him a 10-year prison sentence.
Inside this car is Bushra Bibi, joining her husband Imran Khan behind bars after they both received a sentence of 14 years in jail for corruption, the second conviction and harshest yet of the former Prime Minister.
With just days to go before Pakistan's general election, which he's barred from competing in, some feel the timing casts doubt over the vote.
The way one political party is being targeted and the way things are being managed, I don't think the 2024 election will deliver a credible result.
I think it's all been dealt with in haste. This shouldn't have happened before the election. People should have been allowed to decide through their votes who they support and who they favor.
Khan's corruption sentence comes just one day after he received a 10-year prison term for revealing state secrets, and it's unclear if he'll serve both concurrently. Ousted by his opponents in 2022, the 71-year-old former cricket player and politician has been in jail since August and facing trial in numerous cases, which he vehemently argues are all politically motivated. With candidates from his party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, now forced to run as independents, his lawyers believe the crackdown is a ruse to topple the populist leader.
There's absolutely no trial of Imran Khan and the wife of Imran Khan. It's a sham exercise. For the last 7 years, there are Tosha Khana cases, which are pending in the two high courts, Islamabad High Court and Lahore High Court. Those are pending in the same NAB court. Why justice rushed and justice crushed in the case of Imran Khan and his wife?
As well as a fine of 787 million rupees, Khan and his wife have also been banned from holding any kind of public office for a decade.
Farmers threw eggs and stones at the European Parliament in Brussels on Thursday, started fires near the building and set off fireworks as they demanded EU leaders to do more help them with taxes and rising costs.
They've arrived in Brussels on their tractors and are heading for the European Union headquarters. Farmers from across Europe have come to press their leaders to resolve the urgent agricultural crisis. Farmers' protest movements spread across Belgium, France, Germany and Romania in recent weeks, with Italian and Spanish farmers also joining the protests, all deeply concerned about the future of farming as the current system, they say, is unsustainable.
We're civilized people. We're going to show that we do not agree, but our aim is not to demolish everything. We're here to show our faces and to send a message that it is becoming too hard for us.
The main concerns are excessive regulation, high production costs, green rules incompatible with farming, and cheap import deals with countries that push them out of competition with producers from abroad. They want the EU to address these issues, some of which are backed by their own government.
We can't have an agricultural structure where we say try harder on standards, try harder on the environment, try harder on this or that, and then say free trade agreements stay the same as before.
The farmers' movement is backed by a large majority of the public. Latest opinion polls in France show 87% of people support their cause. Though under pressure to meet all of their demands, European leaders might struggle imposing changes on EU-wide farming regulations and nature laws, as each plan requires the approval of all 27 member states and the European Parliament. To ease tensions, the EU Commission proposed on Wednesday to temporarily limit imports from Ukraine on produce such as poultry, eggs and sugar, as well as a greater flexibility on green rules for fallow land. But this remains insufficient for the farmers. Leaders will have to work on a more convincing set of measures to avoid growing support for the far right ahead of the European parliamentary elections in June.
Teachers were striking across France on Thursday for better pay and conditions, increasing pressure on the embattled education minister, who has been embroiled in a series of controversies.
The education sector is exasperated. Teachers are striking in Paris, Marseille, Rennes and Nantes upon the union's call to send a warning to the government. Their main demand is a pay rise, particularly among staff working with students with disabilities. They also want more recognition of the qualifications needed for their role, asking to raise the civil servant status from Category C to Category B. This would mean that assistants working with students with disabilities would need at least 2 years of higher education in addition to the baccalaureate, instead of just a national diploma obtained in the 9th grade. Another priority is the improvement of working conditions and fewer numbers of students per class, which teachers believe would make the job more appealing and raise the recruitment rate.
The better the pay, the more teachers will recruit, and then we'll be able to ensure that the students will have teachers present throughout the entire year.
The sector's anger has been fanned by comments from their new education minister, Amélie Oudéa-Castéra, who drew public criticism after moving her son from a state school to a privately funded school.
She's a minister who shows a great deal of respect for public schools and their staff, but who doesn't recognize the scale of the serious crisis that we're facing. We're telling her schools are in crisis and she's facing the other way.
According to the teacher unions, the movement has mobilized 40% of all teaching staff in the country and 65% in Paris alone.
U.S. President Joe Biden is weighing responses to the death of 3 U.S. service members in Jordan during a Sunday drone strike the White House attributed to Iranian-backed militias.
The deaths of 3 U.S. service members at a military base in Jordan on Sunday will not go unanswered, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told reporters Thursday. Despite fears a U.S. response could escalate regional tensions.
So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region. But we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
Iran-backed militants have carried out 166 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Iran has denied responsibility for the attack that killed 3 U.S. service members and says it is not deterred by a potential U.S. response.
You know that we do not leave any threats unanswered. While we are not looking for war, we are not afraid of war, and we do not run away from it.
On Capitol Hill, some Democratic senators are concerned a U.S. response could rapidly escalate a military conflict before lawmakers have a chance to authorize war.
This is an escalating war in the Middle East. The U.S. is getting drawn more and more into it. There's no congressional authorization for the U.S. participation in another war in the Middle East, so the time is probably now right for Congress to begin that discussion.
But lawmakers also recognize the need for a strong U.S. response.
Anyone who attacks the troops and puts Americans in harm's way, we're going to do everything we can to defend our citizens and our troops especially, and let them know that this is not going to be tolerated and they'll have to pay extreme prices for it.
Earlier this week, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell said the Biden administration's policies had increased the threat posed by Iran.
For 3 years, the threat of Iran-backed terror against American personnel and interests in the Middle East has been growing. Iran is emboldened and believes it can use its proxies to attack America with impunity. And the Biden administration has hastened this erosion of deterrence. Their public hand-wringing and fear of escalation sends exactly the wrong message to Tehran.
And other Republican lawmakers said Thursday any response should be carefully calibrated.
I'd like to know the president has a plan to not just stop this, but to put Iran in a position they will never do this again.
The U.S. has responded to previous attacks on U.S. service members with actions including an October strike on a weapons storage site in Syria used by Iranian-backed militias. Catherine Gibson, VOA News.
South Africa's law enforcement authorities battle crime involving copper and aluminium theft, commonly found in plumbing pipes and electrical cables.
Because of the high number of cable theft incidents in the province, the city of Cape Town established a specialized metal theft unit. Its primary mission is to track down copper thieves.
This is plumbing pipe that was acquired somewhere, same as this, also copper pipes.
The metal theft unit visits the ever-growing number of scrap metal dealers daily, as here in Hillview.
Sometimes there's people that come here for a valid reason. They come, they bring their copper for food, you know. And then there's the ones you get that steal for drugs.
Cable theft is everywhere and impacts water supplies and even street lighting. Between October and December, Cape Town recorded almost 400 cable theft incidents. In addition to security, legislation needs to evolve to curb the scourge.
I think our record is about 276 arrests a year. In the past, the problem has been that these arrests didn't go very far. So as fast as we were arresting people, the courts were putting them back on the streets with very light sentences. And now national government has made that impossible.
Criminals face up to 20 years imprisonment, but the problem is far from solved. Hard hit during the COVID-19 lockdown, railway stations struggled to recover. The National Railway Company, PRASA, already had to replace 650 kilometers of cables. Yet cable theft incidents continue almost daily, requiring greater interventions and funds.
We want to deploy technology to assist us in early detection. There are two types of technologies that we are trying at the moment. It is drones, and the second one, it is sensors along the track using fiber optic technology.
The state imposed a 6-month ban on copper exports and intends to renew the ban, but it is considered a double-edged solution that encourages illegal markets and enrich criminal groups.
Countries waging wars are more focused on winning battles than mitigating their environmental impact, but researchers who say the environmental impact of active conflicts is substantial are trying to measure war's effects.
The rubble from some 170,000 buildings damaged in the war in Gaza is more than just a humanitarian concern. It's also an environmental one.
What the likelihood that there may be storage of chemicals, fuel tanks, or other materials that may then cause contamination. The environmental quality of existing groundwater supplies were already poor, and that's been exacerbated by the current conflict.
Scientists are trying to assess the environmental impacts of the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. Studies include war-related forest fires and pollution from weapons, significant threats to humans, wildlife, and ecosystems in Ukraine, researchers warn.
Any ordnance which is explosive, when it explodes, it can start off new fires and it definitely produces more chemicals which come out.
Separate researchers in Europe, the UK, and the US are making pioneering efforts to measure war-related greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to climate change.
Greenhouse gas emissions you don't measure directly, so you derive them from amount of fuel that has been used or the amount of fire. So we have different kind of sources.
One peer-reviewed study conducted inside Ukraine says the first 18 months of war produced more greenhouse gases than the annual emissions of Austria, Portugal, or Hungary. But the lack of international guidelines to measure emissions from conflict, the limited opportunities for field research, and the secrecy surrounding military operations mean that estimates are not always precise or conclusive. Nonetheless, those making them argue they are important to better understand and improve the global fight against climate change.
If we haven't learned anything over the past few years, extreme weather events from floods to extreme temperatures to a whole host of salinity problems, this is at our front door.
Holding climate polluters accountable remains a challenge. Under the current international reporting system, countries report the greenhouse gas emissions produced in their own territory. There are no formal guidelines to measure those emissions from a conflict or a legal framework to attribute responsibility.
International efforts will be needed from scientists, policymakers, to develop some new guidelines.
The U.S. military backs the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, but the Pentagon says it takes the threat from climate change seriously. Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder told VOA.
When it comes to climate change and the effect of climate change, the department has been very clear to include referencing it in our national defense strategy that we as a U.S. military need to adapt and be ready to address the kinds of challenges that climate change presents.
Researchers underline that while mitigating environmental and climate change impacts must remain a top concern, addressing the humanitarian crisis and civilian suffering in war zones must also take precedence. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
And in our sports news, Lactalis Eswatini has sponsored the 2024 Resolution Run edition with a package of 70,000 malangeni. The event will be held on the 17th of February this year at Mlilwane. We've come to the end of our English bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. We will come back with our sports. The journalist Fabrice Musanera. Let's leave you with the weather.
It's 38 minutes after 7 asiphindze sinamukele ehlelweni sisolo nje sitawukhulumisa tindzaba tetemidlalo naFabrice Msonera lakhaya-ke sitawuba nayo i-Premier League again this weekend. Sitawubukela iManzini Wanderers ne-Royal Leopard amongst many other games la tawuba khona le sitawabuka, but we do want to track the Africa Cup of Nations. Le solo nje i-keeper the football fans excited. So far it has been a roller coaster of emotions le qhubekako, and we want to look back at some of the last games of the round of 16 la qale-ke ne-Cape Verde versus i-Mauritania lapho khona i-Cape Verde iphumelele yashaya yona i-Mauritania seyikuwo-ke ama-quarter finals. Tabona leminye imidlalo lefaka ikhathi i-Senegal versus i-Cote d'Ivoire which ended in penalties. Nemali-ke idlalile ne-Burkina Faso ngalesibili, kanti-ke lapho imali ikhonile kunqoba leyo mdlalo loyo. Kanti-ke Bafana versus Morocco was a beautiful game lejabulise kakhulu-ke live lakamakhelwane, as well as a lot of Eswatini who, you know, not surprisingly support Bafana. The quarterfinals start today with Angola versus Nigeria nga-7 kanti-ke nga-10 bese kudlala iCongo versus iGuinea. We're going to talk about all those games as well as the English Premier League. Manchester United, what a win yesterday, Fabrice. I welcome you to the program. How are you this morning? I want us to start by the local fixtures lapha ekhaya. Manzini Wanderers versus Real Leopard looks to be the biggest game this weekend.
And for the sake of the viewers, it's a beautiful morning once again. I think Sfiso, I don't know what to say. I think the MTN Premier League every weekend is getting exciting. I was actually telling my colleagues to say, you know what, I think for the remaining 5 weeks, whenever there's a fixture, the team that is sitting on position number 1 is not assured that when they return the next week, they will be number 1. Currently, Real Leopard is sitting on top of the league. But their game against Manzini Wanderers does not give you assurance that if they don't play well, if they don't do well, they might not sit as number 1 by the end of the weekend, Monday. Because look at the difference between the two teams, them and Green Mamba. It's goals. And then you look at 28. So you have to look at number 2, 3 as well, 26. It is so close up to number 4 or 5. You can't even count number 5 as 5 out, 24 points, because once they win a game and all the teams above have lost, they are close, they're 27. But I think for me, Green Mamba against Ilovo, it's another tricky game. Ilovo has shown to create some surprises sometimes. Swallows also, they have to be very careful. Anything can change. Mostly because we're talking about a team that is now out of the relegation zone, Manzini Wanderers, number 12. So they want to keep that performance because they know that if they lose against Leopard and Eswatini United wins, they would drop again in the relegation zone.
What are the chances of Eswatini United winning against Highlanders? Highlanders, as you can see on screen, 6th position. Eswatini United sitting pretty there on the 13th position. Yeah,
it's a tricky fixture.
What are the chances of Eswatini United winning against Bobani Highlanders this weekend?
High chances. I'll give you some of the reasons why there might be a case, there might be that scenario.
Right.
First, the two teams, the only distance between the two teams' training facilities, it's only 50 meters.
Right.
So if you know Zuluini, you know the MTN headquarters. On the other left side, going down, that's where Eswatini United team trains. Then you go down by the... So there is that familiarity, that's one. 2, there's a player that left Bobani Highlanders went to play for Eswatini United, Mantla Palmer. I think he saw the headlines on one of the local papers highlighting that he put in a resignation letter for at Bobani Highlanders. He's now joining Eswatini United. The expertise, the experience. There's a lot of dilemmas. And then I think coming to this game, Highlanders, yes, are from a high spirit against Rangers, winning that game against Rangers 1-0. But coming to this game, they want to avoid another defeat. But for Eswatini United, they also know that they don't have much time because they want to be back to winning way. So it's a tricky one. But look at Ilovo against Green Mamba.
Yeah, I want to get into that one because Ilovo hasn't had a great season, start to the season.
Ask me how the first round played.
But
no.
I want us to talk about that. But Green Mamba as well, they've been really inconsistent.
Yeah,
so again, Ilovo just might have a chance.
They might have a chance. They look at themselves, you know what, we did in the first round. Was it 3-0? Somewhere there. But then they will tell themselves, you know what, we can do this. We play against the defending champions, yes, but we have a chance. For Green Mamba, they're from a draw. They're from a draw against Bobani Swallows. They're from another defeat against Manzini Wanderers. So they haven't won a game in 2 games. So it's going to be a very tricky one. But look at Swallows against Madlenya. Oof.
Yeah.
I think that's a pre. TV would do say pre-production. That's a pre-preparations of the Ngonyama Cup quarterfinals. I think that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Swallows
Number 3
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
You do see Swallows winning this one?
I'm going to give it to I draw another game, another once again from Bobani Swallows. Considering that they still don't have Felix, they still don't have Sunday Tachwao, who also got injured over the weekend. So they have problems up front, vis-a-vis Madlenya that is high confident, but there is Lucky Gamez who's left the club now, playing for Young Buffaloes. So he was the team captain. He was very key in that defensive side of Madlenya. But they play as a team, they win as a team, they defend as a team, and they celebrate as a team. So it's a tricky one. It's a draw for me. It can be not, it can be 1-1, but I'm seeing a draw in that game.
And you do see Manzini Wanderers losing to, the first seeded Real Leopards.
It's a tricky one because
How is it a tricky one?
Wanderers have got a, I don't know, is it a name or is it a coach or preparations? They do pull some stands when they face big guns. And I think you've seen their game against Green Mamba.
Come on, Fabrice, Royal Leopards is winning that game, and I can put my money on that.
Let's come back on Monday, because Monday I'm here, we talk about it, and let's argue on that, because I am also eyeing a draw as well. Who knows? Anything is possible.
Okay, Manzini Seabirds versus the sizzling Singizini Hotspurs. You know, people have been complaining that they have a lot of home game advantage. You know, they've been having their games played at the Shisarani region for the longest time now. Is that an unfair advantage?
You could say so, because you talk about home crowd in advantage. How many supporters for Manzini Seabirds have to travel to Shanghai? Is an example. But for Spurs, you know, it's the area. You just drive, neighborhood, and you watch your club. So it's a tricky one. Look at another mini Manzini derby. Denver Sundowns against Moroni Pirates. Both teams are not doing well. Once Denver Sundowns drops points, because there's only 1 point between them and Manzini Wanderers. So Manzini Wanderers have a chance to jump to 11th, because Denver, they are quite you know, inconsistent as well. They are not doing quite well. Can Moroni Pirates record their first win of the season? We have to wait. Look at that side where they still have to win. In 15 games, they had to win again.
It's quite interesting. That's it for our local fixtures. And it looks to be a really interesting weekend. You know, a lot is happening in the country this weekend, but I'm sure football fans will be out there in full support of their, you know, sides. Let's talk about the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah.
It has been such an interesting Africa Cup of Nations. You know, when it started, a lot of people were criticizing it, saying that there isn't much excitement as, you know, the glory days of your Didier Drogba's, your Asamoah Gyan's, your Samuel Eto'o's. But there's been a plot twist into the AFCON. We've seen that, you know, there's been a lot of exciting games. Teams are really out there to compete. We're seeing underdogs, you know, get W's. Are you seeing results that you expect with these games in this Africa Cup of Nations? Maybe let's start with, you know, of course, the game that we saw on Monday, Cape Verde versus Mauritania.
There's always a surprising package when it comes to such tournaments. We've seen even during the World Cup, we saw Morocco playing against the likes of Portugal up to the semi-finals. There's always a surprising package. But what I've learned, I was listening to Arsene Wenger, one of the FIFA development managers, saying that, you know what, where we are as a continent, we've got a potential of now pulling some of the greatest teams in Europe to come and fetch players in Africa. And I think after the AFCON coming to June, July, a lot of African players would get European teams. But there is science that we were able to see in these games. Before I hand over to you, two things. If Cape Verde did it, I keep saying we can do it.
Yeah.
If a team locally, one team is doing well, continentally they will represent you. Remember FC Barcelona during their days, what they did. Remember Bayern Munich, what they did during their days. Remember, you know, all the big teams, when they're doing well, majority of the local players, they supported team. There's no reason why we should say it's a surprise that Mamelodi Sundowns is doing well in Africa and Bafana is doing well. If we do that, we're able to do that. Nigeria, Angola, it can be a surprising game for you. Nigeria stand a very, very big chance of maybe going through. But you look at Angola.
You don't want to count Angola out, indeed.
You don't count this team out. And I think it's one of the teams we would say from the SADC region that they're representing us. So it's a tricky one. Yes, Nigeria, they've got some of the biggest guns, but you have to wait and see. These are the two games today against Guinea. There's DRC. DRC, it's one of the teams with the majority of European players in their side. You wouldn't tell.
It gives them a competitive
advantage. I was looking at their side, including the goalkeeper who plays in Belgium. You look at the likes of Wissa, he plays for Brentford. They have got players, and there are players who are in Europe who didn't even come to play for them. You look at Manchester United right back, Wan-Bissaka. He's from DRC. At some point he was debating, should I play for England? Should I play for DRC? But he ended up not making a final decision. Look at where they are now, quarterfinals. They have a chance, but they can make it to the semifinals. Guinea, you've got your, Bissouma and everyone. Yes.
But how Congo got to the quarterfinals has been quite a bit of a rough patch as compared to Guinea. You remember that Congo went into the penalties with Egypt,
yeah.
and Egypt had a red card in that game.
Yeah.
They were short of one man. So I don't know if Guinea coming into this game is the better team on paper. What would you say?
You would say that compared to who they faced, compared to who they had in their group. But you look at GRC, you'll have to say maybe from the knockout stage, that was one of the toughest opponents. Beating the all-time best nation when it comes to Africa Cup of Nations. 8 titles of the Africa Cup of Nations. For me,
a great point.
I think that's in terms of CAF rankings, they would just climb the mountain. But look at that victory against Namibia, Angola. You wouldn't say much. Nigeria, Cameroon, it was another tough fixture. But South Africa defeating number 1 in Africa, Morocco, and 16 in the world. Then it tells me, do they have it easy when they play Cape Verde tomorrow? Because they play Cape Verde tomorrow. Would you say it's easy? South Africans are now saying we have a chance to the semi-finals. And if they get into the semi-final, trust me, they will get into the finals of the competition. So it's been amazing. This team was in the same group with Eswatini. These players, we watched them here at some point before Mabuso Sports Center and some place was closed. We've seen them. But what a competition it's been so far.
Quite interesting, Fabrice. And, my question then becomes, if we look at South Africa versus Cape Verde, like you're saying, if they win this game against Morocco, which, if we look at the previous games, it looks like South Africa just
have
might
a
really,
chance,
have an easy win, if we're being honest, against Morocco.
Yeah.
But, them getting into the semi-finals will mean they are going into the finals, That should motivate them enough. But Mali versus Cote d'Ivoire, I want us to discuss this game because, Cote d'Ivoire is one of the teams that has quite of a great history in the Africa Cup of Nations. Certainly not the best team, but they are looking good this year. And Mali, you don't want to count Mali out.
You don't want to count Mali out, but so before I let you maybe take the center stage in what you believe, I have a thing, man. I look at the odds and say, when this happens, it's that type of thing. Whenever Springbok has lifted a trophy, either the next year or the previous or the same year, South Africa, Bafana, they do well. Springbok just won the World Cup.
Yeah.
Tell you, Bafana, Ivory Coast, that's my final. And Bafana takes the trophy. Ivory Coast, the way they qualified to the knockout stages, you wouldn't believe it. Look where they are now. Mali, yes, we can't undermine them, but I'm giving you this. South Africa, Ivory Coast, it's the final. The two teams are into the semi-final, and they'll go straight into the finals.
Man, I have a bit of an argument there, because if you look at how Ivory Coast has gotten to the stage where they are, how they played against Senegal, they went into penalties. Equatorial Guinea thrashed them. They're not looking like a team that's going to the final. So how do you support your argument?
That's in group stages. South Africa was defeated by Mali, their first game of the tournament. But if you put the two teams now, I don't think Mali would do that again. It's different. There are some teams that grow with the tournament. Some teams, they grow with the tournament. Remember how Argentina started the qualifiers, the group stages of the World Cup?
Yeah.
It wasn't promising, but they ended up winning the World Cup. So some teams, in some instances, they grow as the tournament progresses. So I think for me, picking Bafana and Ivory Coast, it's based on a lot of things, because there's so much togetherness in that Bafana side. There is support. You look at what they did against Morocco. Then I'm looking at Ivory Coast to say, now they're starting to believe in themselves. They have got a home advantage. The coach, yes, was fired. They have got now an interim coach. So you then start telling yourself, you know what, actually we can do this. Actually we're capable of doing this. So against Mali, they can qualify and they can go to the next stage. I'm worried tonight. I'm worried. I just can't put my fingers on it. Angola, Nigeria, I'm worried.
Yeah,
Nigeria might
that's
be
my
shocked.
thing. How are you counting Nigeria out of the finals when Nigeria, if you look at their previous 3 games, they won against Cameroon, they won against Guinea-Bissau, they won against your Ivory Coast. They're looking like a team that really wants to win it all.
Angola is likely to shock them. I'm not saying Angola is winning.
I just feel like you don't like Nigeria, and your bias is coming.
No, they're the
right
powerhouse of the continent, so I can say I don't like them. They give me that confidence.
So your analysis is flawed then, because Nigeria, if we're going by numbers and by analysis, just like you always like to do, Nigeria is playing in the finals.
But no. In my opinion, I don't think.
In your biased opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that their journey could end in the semi-final because they play either DRC. Yes, they'll play DRC if they go through or Guinea. So I think for me, yeah, I'm giving it to Nigeria. But Angola can promise and can shock them.
Manchester United beat Wolves yesterday in a 4-3 victory in the English Premier League in what almost became a draw. How is Manchester United looking? Every win that they've gotten, Eswatini City, they are not looking. Of course, they are scoring the goals, but the wins are not entirely convincing.
Small margins. I think this game, first half was 2-0. Yeah, first half was 2-0 against Wolves. Then look at what changed in the second half. Wolves was at home. I think for me, there were a lot of information coming from Manchester United camp pertaining to Rashford and everything. He scored last night. But it tells me a lot. If then you were leading, I know it's the Premier League. People will say it's one of the. It is actually the toughest league in the world. But there's a lot of issues that need to be sorted in that Manchester United camp, because I'm looking at the players that left the team, starting with Cristiano Ronaldo. How they ended up being happy. I know you might say it's Saudi Arabia, you can't compare. But go to Germany. Look at what Sancho is already doing for Borussia Dortmund. You'll be so much shocked.
Amazing.
I know people will be talking about Mason Greenwood, his story with Getafe in Spain. He's doing very well. So the players have left, yes, but what's the identity of the club? Because it's just, they're all over. They want a player. Is the player fitting the system? But for now, what they have, what they have created, there's a little bit of numbers in your Garnacho. Some of the players you can say maybe if you put them in the field of play, they can give you results. But I think for me, it will be tough for them to get into the top 4. I'll give them number 5 or number 6. I don't think they'll make it in the top 4. I don't think so.
I don't think the top 4 is going to be as it is right now?
Yeah, as it is. But there's a debate between Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspurs. One of them has to drop. So I think Spurs are picking up their form. Aston Villa also, after the defeat against Newcastle United at home, for the first time in 15 months, they lost at home. So there's a debate between Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspurs. But for the 3 teams above, nothing changes.
Nothing changes. And of course, Liverpool, in fact, I don't want to talk about that game, but they're looking really well there in the first position. They beat Chelsea, and that's my team. So I'm not really sure I want to discuss that in detail. Also, just looking at how much time we have. But let's look at what is the biggest game of the weekend, because I want us to move to La Liga very quickly.
Number 1 and number 3, Arsenal and Liverpool. And I think on Sunday, 4 February, down at the bottom of the screen, the Gunners are home. Information is Partey is likely to be in the field of play, which I doubt. I don't think he might start a game. He might come as a sub, because I think Arteta understands the mood and the spirit of the player. He understands the game plan of Klopp. Klopp will have Trent Alexander back in the game, so you don't want to risk that speedy Liverpool with a player who's just out of injury for more than 4 to 5 months. He could come in the second half. He could start with the regular starting lineup of your Odegaard, maybe with Rice and the rest of the players. But fit is Jesus, fit is Martinelli, fit is Saka. For Liverpool, I think now they have convinced everyone that they don't need Salah now to win games. They can play without Salah, which is something I've always told people, that the front 3 that they have currently can sustain them even next season, because Salah now is turning 32 this weekend. If Klopp is leaving, chances of even putting him on the market could be possible. But if you look at what Nunes is doing, you look at what Luis is doing, Jota I think has been very crucial in their side, and they still have Gapco on the bench. So
but
they don't have to rely on Salah. They can come and win this game. But Arsenal at home,
it's not looking, because Arsenal is playing at home.
It's at home, But we've seen this before. A team can play at home and really put it. And I think what could work for Arsenal, it's a victory. A draw,
they need the win.
Victory, a draw is still okay for Liverpool because they're away. But look at the Manchester City side. They have got a game in hand. They haven't played one more game. So if they play a game in hand, even though on paper you cannot count a game, they have 49 points. And if Liverpool drop points off the weekend, City, they take the lead. And once
so Manchester City is praying for an Arsenal win this weekend, so that, of course, with their game that they have in hand, they get to have a greater chance of, you know, getting back to position 1.
And if City
I'm
is
afraid
to win
we won't be
their
able
game,
to speak about La Liga, but I wanted us to speak about Real Madrid, first position again in the La Liga standings. But we don't have time for Brice. But certainly Madrid is still competing for the whole chip.
Yeah.
Barcelona, I'm counting them
Look
out.
at Girona. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Quite interesting. Barcelona, there's a lot of decline.
Inconsistency,
After Xavi announced that he'll be leaving the club. Yeah. But let's see. I think for now, it's all about the Champions League.
Let's see how the weekend pans out. It's been great. But please, thank you for coming to the program. For responsible.
Now, there's no other place better than being live on Eswatini TV and listen to sporting activities as we bring them to you live here on a Thursday during the Temidlalo show. Hello and welcome for the Thursday edition of Temidlalo. It's all about sports and anything that has to do with the upcoming sporting activities in the country. So it's the first Thursday of the month of February. And I tell you what, we're in for one of the best shows in the country, just giving you details, what was happening over the weekend, what can we build up to this past weekend. First ever Shuguma Eswatini program for the year 2024 was taking place at Zakele Sports Ground in Manzini this past weekend in the company of Minister for Sports and the Minister for Education, Minister for Sports Bongani Nzima and the Minister for Education Owen Ngumaro. They took part of this edition where Emaswati came in their numbers to praise, or rather to take part of the occasion. So we look at what unfolded, what type of sporting codes were being displayed, and the message that will be coming from the senior citizens of the country, the two ministers being Minister Bongani Nzima, His Honorable Bongani Nzima, and Minister of Education Owen Ngumalo. So moving on to that, we look at swimming, because also for 2024, it was the first ever edition of